Hello, friends, and welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by Tavor. I am your host, Tom Downey. Cowboys did not look good in Week 3 of the NFL season against the Seattle Seahawks, so it's time to take a look at some winners and losers, with mostly losers from that bad effort. But we'll start with the winners and try and get some positivity here for the Cowboys, even though there wasn't a whole lot of it to go around. First up is Byron Jones, the most positive thing I saw coming out of that game. Look, the dude's been great. He's actually been graded as the #1 cornerback in the NFL by Pro Football Focus. He was targeted 7 times against the Seahawks, allowed 3 catches for 10 yards, and also broke up 2 passes. I wanted this to happen for a long time. I'm so glad Chris Richard felt the exact same way. Byron Jones is a good cornerback, and that's where he needs to play. So very happy with how Byron Jones has looked. And he, by the way, is your #1 cornerback for the Cowboys. No offense to Chidobe Awuzie. Byron's just a better player right now. All right, another winner. About Leighton Vander, Esch. He was good with Sean Lee out. 11 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. LVE played very well against the Seahawks. And by the way, after 3 games, 2 of which have actually been pretty good for Vander Esch, back-to-back weeks on the winners list for me, can we chill a little bit on the LVE as a bust talk? I think he's a good player, and maybe he's not the elite linebacker. Maybe it would have been better to go receiver and then a linebacker later. But I don't think Vander Esch looks like a bust through 3 games. And frankly, he's been the best rookie so far for the Cowboys, which maybe makes sense because he was the first-round pick. But let me know if you're still hating on Vander Esch. Type S for stud and type B for bust. I've been pretty pleased with how well Vander Esch has played this season. Folks, today's show is brought to you by Tavor. You guys like beer, right? Of course you guys do, so you're going to love Tavor. Sign up with them to get alerts on all their different craft beers from breweries all over the country. They have a chocolate pumpkin stout right now that actually sounds really good to me, though I'm not much of a stout guy, but I do like pumpkin and chocolate, so got to try that one. Go to Tavor.com, sign up with promo code CHATSPORTS for $10 off your first delivery. If you love beer, you're going to love Tavor. All right, on to some more winners this week from the Cowboys. How about La'el Collins? Wasn't too pleased with how he fared in the first 2 weeks of the season, but he was much better in Week 3. Now, there's still room to grow for Collins, and he did allow 2 hurries and had a penalty that was negated because the Cowboys got sacked on the play anyway. But I was pretty pleased with how Collins fared, and I think that's a big deal for the Cowboys. Frankly, he outplayed Tyron Smith, who we'll get to once we get to the losers category. But Collins goes down as a Week 3 winner for me. Maybe it's a bit of a reach, as will these next, as the same will be true for these next 2 guys, but not exactly a whole lot of winners to go around this week for the Cowboys. And how about DeMarcus Lawrence? Half a sack and 3 hurries in Week 3 is pretty good, and he was definitely a good player for the Cowboys, but I thought he would have been better because Jermaine Ifedi's bad at football. I'm kind of surprised Tank only had half a sack and 3 hurries. I thought he would have done a little bit more. I think that kind of sums up the Cowboys' defensive effort overall. It wasn't like a disaster, but it probably wasn't as good as it can or really needs to be. Speaking of Tank, how many sacks will he have this year? Let me know in the comments section. I think around 11 or 12 is really kind of an ideal guess for Tank Lawrence because you're not going to get a sack every game, even if you're Tank Lawrence. All right, another winner then, about Brett Maher. I am officially moving him off of my probation list for now. Now we'll see. And I'll continue to tweet out every time he makes a field goal, who needs Dan Bailey, and every time he misses one, bring back Dan Bailey because that's just funny. But he was good against Seattle, nailed a 50-yard field goal, so he's 2 of 2 this year on field goals, plus he has the extra point in that one, or excuse me, 3 of 4 on field goals this year, 2 of 2 against the Seahawks. He was good. A very good sign for the Cowboys because if Brett Maher sucked, oh my God, everything would have been a disaster. After missing that first field goal, he's bounced back quite nicely since then, so he's off my probation list. He's a Week 3 winner, even though it's maybe a bit of a reach because the Cowboys were just so bad in Week 2. To recap the winners, though, Byron Jones, Leighton Vander Esch, the clear-cut guys, and then maybe some lesser winners, La'el Collins, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Brett Maher. We'll move to the losers, but first, folks, please subscribe to our Cowboys Report YouTube channel if you haven't already. Go to youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. All of our Cowboys coverage is in one spot right there. Already at the 3K subscribers mark, but we got to get to 5K. That's the next big number. Again, that's youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. All right, on to the losers now, and there were a lot of them. We'll start from the, I guess, least losers all the way down to the I hate you right now. Chidobe Awuzie. Look, he wasn't like a disaster necessarily, but he had a down game. And it wasn't all of his fault because I don't blame him for the second touchdown that happened for the Cowboys. I'll get to the blame on that one in a minute. But he was targeted 6 times, 5 receptions for 69 yards, not nice, and 1 touchdown. Not exactly ideal by any means. It wasn't all his fault. I think there was some miscommunication between Cheeto and Xavier Woods on the first touchdown, but I'm pretty sure it was Awuzie's fault. So he gets a loser for week 3. He's been pretty good this year, and one of the catches he gave up was impossible to stop on that Brandon Marshall one, but he's still a week 3 loser for me. Also a loser, Kevon Frazier. Look, he's fine in run support, but as I've said from the beginning, if you put him in pass coverage, it's just not going to go well. And that Tyler Lockett touchdown catch, I'm blaming Frazier for. That was on him. All right, that was a horrendous angle. It was zone coverage. Frazier's got to stay back and make a play on the ball, or at least the man. Instead, he lets Lockett go into the end zone pretty much untouched. So 3 catches for 66 yards and a TD. Keep him in the box as a big nickel or as a strong safety. I just don't like him in coverage. All right, Sean Lee now, who, when he was on the field, was actually pretty good for the Cowboys, but he's always hurt. Stop getting hurt, Sean Lee. He's talented. He just cannot seem to stay healthy. He's going to miss a few weeks with a hamstring injury, and that's why he is a loser this week. It's so incredibly frustrating because I love Sean Lee, the player. He's an immensely talented guy, but he keeps finding ways to get hurt, and that's just unfortunate, and it's bad for him. At this point, he's never going to be a 16 game a season guy because he never has been. Why would he change in his 30s now? So, folks, question for you guys. How many games will Sean Lee play in this year? Let me know in the comment section. I'll put the over-under at 12. And actually, it's probably I'm going to put it at 10, actually. I'll put it at 10, basically asking if he'll get hurt again later this year. And frankly, I think the under is actually probably the better bet. All right, some week 3 losers going on. Stick with the defensive side of the ball here. Randy Gregory. Come on, Randy. Make a play for starters, and don't take a penalty before the half and give the Seahawks a field goal chance. That was stupid, and you know it. Penalty was inexcusable, and where's the impact been? He looked pretty darn good in the preseason. The hype train got out of control, and since then, Gregory's been hurt and, not impactful. He's got to get going as a passer because the Cowboys need another guy across from DeMarcus Lawrence. And right now, hasn't been Gregory. Taco's been okay, but you want it to be Gregory, right? That hasn't happened yet. All right, next up on the loser side, Tyron Smith, who I'll kind of just put as slash the entire offensive line because it has not been good enough yet. Was better in week 2 and then, again, regressed in week 3 against, a better defensive line. But that should have been a matchup that favors the Cowboys. Instead, the opposite was true. Now, Smith didn't technically give up a sack because his guys didn't make it, but he got beat a lot by Frank Clark in particular. And I remember the one play where Frank Clark got a great snap and blew right by Tyron Smith. Didn't get the sack, but he forced Dak to run around and move in the pocket, and Michael Kendricks got him as well. So I was not pleased with Tyron Smith. I'm not panicking about him yet, but I am kind of like getting a little twitchy and nervous because he hasn't been the Tyron Smith that we're used to seeing. All right, more offensive losers. Michael Gallup has just not been that good. He's dropped 2 passes this year and only has a handful of catches with 3 of them, I think on 7 targets to be total. Targeted 4 times. Dropped the pass that was picked off. And it reminded me of Dez Bryant. And that's not good for Gallup because I think part of the reason why Dak has struggled is because I don't think the trust is there yet. He looks almost hesitant at times. If you're Dak, how do you trust Gallup right now? Because the last time you went to him, at least one of the last times, he dropped the pass that was picked off. That's not good for Gallup. So I've been very disappointed by how Gallup has fared. I think he'll bounce back down the road, but it's certainly not what the Cowboys wanted or needed through the first 2 weeks of the year with Michael Gallup, their 3rd-round pick, not really making much of an impact. All right, folks, I still have some Cowboys t-shirts and hats to give away. Once we get to 20 given away, we'll give out Cowboys tickets to one of you lucky guys who sign up with one of our sponsors. DM me on Twitter if you want the details on how to get that Cowboys t-shirt or a hat and enter to win those tickets. Again, that's DM me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. All right, some more losers. Some of, I think, really the biggest losers this week. Zeke Elliott. Look, the yards were good. 16 carries, 127. That's good in a nutshell. The issue is pretty much everything else. He had that brutal fumble that cannot happen and too many mistakes, all right? He was out of bounds, but when he caught a ball that went for a touchdown, that got called back because he'd stepped out. Got to have that situation where it's had a bad drop as well on a 3rd down. So Zeke, and I give him credit, took the blame even though it really wasn't mainly his fault. But Zeke has to be better because the reality is the Cowboys aren't going to win games if Zeke has his C or B- game like I think he did against the Seahawks. They need Zeke and the offensive line to be on their A game. And so far, that has not happened yet this year. They're lucky, frankly, to be 1-2 given that that's the case. So Zeke, great player still. Not going to panic about him, but he's a loser because he has to do better. Also a no-brainer loser, right? Like it's Dak Prescott. It's not all of his fault. One of those interceptions was definitely not his fault. The other one was kind of more of a 50-50, but I can still kind of assign some blame to Dak Prescott. But here's the deal. If the offensive line is iffy and the defense gives up some points, your quarterback has to be able to make plays. And Dak hasn't done that yet this season. That's a big red flag for the Cowboys and for Prescott because they need him to be better than what he's been in the first 3 weeks of the season. Now, it's not all of his fault. I put a lot of the blame on the offense and the guys around Dak because he's never going to be a Aaron Rodgers type, Wilson type guy. He has to have good pieces around him, and that's not really the case right now. But that brings up the question, is Dak the Cowboys franchise quarterback? I still lean toward yes because I think you can win with him. But I've never been less confident in Dak Prescott than I am right now through 3 weeks of the 2018 NFL season. What I am confident in is how comfortable this shirt is. Get your own Mizzen and Main shirt today at comfortable.af. They're made in America, and trust me, you will not have a more comfortable shirt, dress or otherwise, than a Mizzen and Main shirt. All right, on to the 2 biggest losers this week. I think you guys know who they are. First up, Jason Garrett. Now, Garrett's not the GM, but all the roster moves that happened this offseason, Dez Bryant, Dan Bailey, the draft, Garrett played a role in those. All right, he was in the hot seat entering this year, and Garrett had input, and it made a big difference in what the Cowboys did because I think the Cowboys front office was like, all right, Garrett, this is your chance. You're going to have a lot of input, and we'll let you make some decisions here. And the worst part of this Cowboys offense, frankly, is that they wanted this. They wanted to have no guys beyond Zeke that the defense is feared, and it's shown in the way teams have covered the Cowboys. Now, I think at the end of the year, you do fire Garrett, but as I said yesterday, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to fire him right now because you're going to fire Scott too, and then, oh my God, it's Kellen Moore, Sanjala calling the plays. I want Garrett to be the play caller and go down sinking with the ship if that's how he wants to go down, rather than tying himself to Linehan. But as for Garrett's future, it's not great. All right, the BETDSI odds make it very clear that they don't think Garrett's going to be the head coach in 2019. I agree. I already put money down on this. It's a no-brainer for me. Garrett's not going to be your head coach in 2019. He's just not going to hang around. The risk to win is worth it to me. You see it right there on your screen. Put down $10. You'll still win some money for what I think is pretty close to a safe bet. Again, that's chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Cowboys120 gets you that 120% deposit bonus. But I don't have much faith in Garrett because Garrett has so much faith in the biggest loser this week, Scott Linehan. He's bad. He is a bad coordinator. And you know what bothers me the most about what Linehan did? It wasn't the lack of deep balls downfield because they did call some plays, but Dak didn't pull the trigger. It's partially the having no idea to use the personnel, how to use it properly. It was the first damn play of the game. Linehan comes out in a 3 tight end set. That's just stubbornness and stupidity. Why are you putting 3 tight ends on the field if you're the Dallas Cowboys? What are you trying to prove? That I'm so smart, I've heard all the buzz about having too many tight ends, so I'm going to do it anyway? Come on, Scott. That's a giant middle finger to any rational Cowboys fan. Stop using 3 tight end sets and go back to the quarterback runs. It worked in week 2, the RPOs, the package plays, the read options. Where were those in the first half of the game, the first 3 quarters of the game? Use those plays, Scott. Don't try and be stubborn and prove otherwise, because right now, you see the offensive stats right there? This offense sucks. It's a bad offense, and it's not just Scott's fault. It's Dak and the receivers and the tight ends and Zeke and the offensive line. But I'm putting the majority of the blame right now on Linehan, because he ain't getting the job done. He should be fired. You can't have this offense be bottom 2 in almost every major stat. Get rid of Linehan. Have Jason Garrett, the once widely proclaimed offensive genius as the OC, have him call the plays. Because if Garrett sticks with Scott, they're both going to go down at the end of the year because Linehan is not doing a good enough job with both the personnel, the play calling, and the overall game plan. It's just not good enough. All right, we'll recap those losers for you guys here if you missed it. Cheeto, Kevon Frazier, Sean Lee, Randy Gregory, Tyron Smith in there as well. And then the big guys, like, look at all those guys on offense. Go figure, right? Michael Gallup had the drop that was intercepted. Zeke wasn't good enough. Dak was nowhere near good enough. Jason Garrett gets all of them because he's the head coach. And Linehan has got to go. I think it's time to fire him. I'm sure I already see it in the comment section. I'm sure many of you guys do as well. All right, folks, we'll be back on Thursday. Give me your questions for our upcoming mailbag. I think we need them right now. I already got a couple, but tweet them to me at What's Going Down here. Get them in the comment section as well. And we'll see you guys on Thursday for next Cowboys Report.